share the link so I can repost it?
Oh, yes, I will.
Story and
Okay.
something.
Okay, should be
Just
switching over here.
throw it on Facebook, please. I can
Okay.
share it on my phone on my stories like Instagram and Facebook.
Absolutely.
Just gonna take a picture of us and gonna throw it as we are going live now.
All right. Sounds great.
Oh, you have a very nice smile in this picture.
Great. So welcome to the Men's Room Show. I am Linda Tilson, a men's empowerment coach from a women's perspective, and I will be today's moderator as the men address the topic, are you hiding behind your addiction? The panel will be discussing how to recognize and understand the underlying causes of addiction, and will also share their perspectives on the steps someone can take towards recovery. The Men's Room Show is a weekly live show that creates a space for men to feel safe expressing their emotions in a vulnerable way. It is a place where men can come to be seen, heard, and acknowledged without feeling judged or afraid to show sides of themselves that are different from society's expectations. We aim to educate, inspire, empower, and advocate. So for today's show, we want to put out this disclaimer. Please note that we are not licensed clinicians, and the views and opinions expressed are our own personal accounts and are solely our own and based on our individual experiences with addiction. Our stories are meant to inspire and provide hope to others who may be struggling with addiction, but it is not intended to serve as a medical advice or professional guidance. If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, we strongly recommend seeking the advice of a qualified healthcare professional who can provide personalized treatment and support. And so with that,
We're not going to get sued.
No. We got 3 guys here on our panel, and I'm going to do something different this week. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and share a little bit about why they're excited to really go into this topic and why it's so important that we're doing that today.
So I'll chime up first. I'm RJ Horner, a men's empowerment coach. My passion is, life and leadership, helping people build a better life. And addiction is, I'm pleased we're touching on this topic. I wouldn't have chose it for myself, but I've experienced my share. I think everybody has on some level or another. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's, got it all together. So I'm glad we're discussing this topic and looking forward to what comes out of today and what people can learn from our discussion today.
And hello, I'm Steve Alley. I'm a quantum coach. So I help people get a hand on their emotions and try to get their whole life back together. So I'm passionate about this topic for one reason. That's because there's a misconception around addiction that I want to address in here. So that's what I'm going to do afterwards.
Sure, I'm Mads. I'm business consultant, works with capital finders, helping early stage companies. Not something we're going to talk a bunch about today. The reason why I'm very passionate about this topic is this is something that's been very relevant in my life. Both have my own addictions that I've been battling. Still have a couple that I'm battling. Also have had a bunch of friends. Actually lost a couple's addiction, so therefore this is something that I'm very passionate about. And if I'm able to help one person one step closer to getting out of their addiction or improve their condition today, that's absolutely lovely.
Thank you so much. You guys all have something that's going to come out today, and I can just feel it right now that we're going to bring some information awareness that men need to hear, and people that are in their lives that support their men also need to hear. And so with that, I thought that, one of the things I was thinking about is like, how does a person truly know they have an addiction? Because they could have something that's a reoccurring problem, but in my mind, I have an idea of how that one thing that you're working through, that whether it's alcohol, It could be cell phone, it could be drugs, it could be working too much, all these different types of addictions. And that's only, a few of them right there. How does a person truly know that they're going down that path that's unhealthy and it's starting to derail things in other parts of their lives? So I kind of want you to kind of tackle what, maybe what you observed or have experienced in there. I think we got to talk about, that part of it first.
Guys, can I start off if you don't mind?
Go ahead.
Awesome. Perfect. You know what? Again, like Linda said, you know what? There are so many different types of addiction. I can tell you first off, I'm addicted to coffee and I don't want to give that one up. I can't do without my coffee. My wife's bringing me a coffee very momentarily, so we'll be interrupted with that. But yeah, no, so there's addictions on all kinds of levels. You know what I mean? Addiction to work, like you said, there's workaholics, alcoholics, drug abuse, and so many more that we probably won't even get to discuss today. But that's what it boils down to. So I would have said that, like I've been addicted to marijuana for a large part of my adult life. I've kicked it. You know what I mean? I don't think it's not a habit that I'll step into again. I don't believe. So I've kicked it, but that doesn't mean it's gone from my life. There's still the awareness and the call to me, the siren call that says, oh, you can have a little bit today. It won't harm you, and how do you manage that? How do you get away from it or still not allow yourself to be, called into it or drawn into that addiction, and just remembering why you've given it up in the first place. You know what I mean? That's the biggest thing. So with me, I would have said my marijuana use was under control because I'd smoke outside of work. You know what I mean? So I'd keep myself straight because I was a bus driver. So I can't be smoking while I'm on the job. So I kept it separate from my job. Only when I'm home at home relaxing. So I would have said it's under control. I don't have a problem with it, right? It's not something that controls my life. But then there was times where it was taking away from my life, taking away from the things that matter to me. My family is most important to me. And yet, put it this way, and then here's where I truly knew I was addicted. One Christmas morning, where look, you get up Christmas morning, you guys, your kids want to go open presents, they want to enjoy the moment. Me, I had to go out and have a little puff before I could open presents one morning. You know what I mean? That was the day I truly knew I was addicted. Now, it took me many years to kick the habit, but that day it brought forward to me that, look, this is taking away from the things that truly matter. You know what I mean? That quality time that my kids would have loved to have. And they knew what my addiction was too. You know what I mean? But they would have loved to have had their dad, let's just open presents. Let's just enjoy the moment. But I needed to have my moment before they could have theirs. So I think when you have an addiction, first of all, and no matter what it is, I'm just using my marijuana use as an example. No matter what it is, first of all, does it call you away from those things that are important to you? That's when you know that the addiction is truly prevalent and something that you may want to take control of or learn how to kick the habit or whatever the case may be. But I think even once you kick the habit, whether it be alcoholism, whether it be even work addiction, right? I think it's still going to call to you. And then just remembering why you gave it up in the first place, why you changed your habit and changed your life.
Thank
Yeah,
you for that.
definitely agree. Definitely agree with that. For me, I lost a few friends to addiction, and my cousin was really addicted to different kinds of drugs. So I could actually see what was going on there, and it was almost like he wasn't in this world anymore. So why do I want to address this topic? It's usually the addiction is not the problem to start with. It's actually the solution they found to what was already going on in their minds, what they cannot solve in their minds. My cousin was a really troubled person before he started auto-medicating, let's say it like that. So to me, it seems more like an addiction is the help you found because of what you're going through. Something that was already there for a long time, and that you try to solve with addiction, with something to just feel better. And I think a lot of men do that with alcohol, for example. Of course, it's also a social thing to do. It's to drink alcohol with friends and stuff like that. But it's another problem you try to solve. The problem you try to solve is fitting in at that moment. You drink to fit in with the rest. All the others are drinking. You have the same thing with smoking weed sometimes. All your friends are smoking weed. You want to be in that circle. You're trying to solve the problem. I want to be in the circle, so I'm starting smoking weed. But also sometimes it's just like, okay, well, you had a bad childhood, and you don't get the help you need, and at some point someone tells you, hey, this is going to make you relax, and you try it once and you go, oh Jesus, yeah, this really helps, and you think that becomes your solution. And every time you get a stressful event, you want to smoke a little bit more, or you want to take something else, or you want to try something even more powerful. And I think that is how things can escalate. Even let's say, for example, if you're addicted to masturbation, it can escalate really, really fastly if you get into a relationship, because then you get, well, addicted to sex, and that's when it gets out of hand. So to me, addiction can go everywhere, but the underlying problem needs to be addressed if you want to get rid of it. Yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm trying to say is, if you want to get rid of addiction, you need to just address what's underlying. If you don't do that, you will probably always get back to that same addiction.
Quickly, I'm gonna give a quick answer to your first question, Sunda. How do you know you're addicted? I would say try a day without it. If you smoke cigarettes, try a day where you don't. Smoke a bunch of weed, try a day where you don't. What happens? Sometimes one day is maybe a little too. You might have to do 2 or 3. Actually, that's what because sometimes withdrawals takes a couple of days to kick in, depending on what you're addicted to. And one thing I want to speak is about why I wrote this couple of things down is, I remember back in the day, me and my mate were doing a bunch of drugs. I'm talking a lot. We do like coke 5 days a week, smoke every day. I've showed up like stoned as hell to work, and I think people didn't even notice because I was stoned every day. And I do believe to some extent I actually can perform a good job stoned if I keep it to a small amount. So it's just I don't want to be in the clouds, but just to lift a little bit, because it can give positive things. Every drug has it enhances you in some way, which is why you take it. It can be, let's say, for example, if I take Xanax, I'll mess with Xanax because it fucks your memory up, but I have in the past. It's like it performs my hands. I sell way better. I talk way better to people because it's an antidepressant. So it can really help me perform a lot better. But I goddamn well knew the consequences getting into an addiction to Xanax before I even tried it, because I've seen people that has gone addicted to it. So therefore I never got into that addiction. That's not the drug I've been addicted to. I think when you go into that, you start doing it, you start moving what's normal. All of a sudden you're over here where you're driving around on weed. That's normal, even though you shouldn't drive on weed because it slows your reaction down quite a bit. It's, same as you're really drunk, you shouldn't do that. But if you're in a crowd, where you normally do that, start moving to normal, and that's normal. Everybody does that. All of my mates drives high, drives drunk, drives done completely on coke or whatever. And that's where it gets really dangerous, like the addiction and the environment. So getting out of an addiction, I do believe you have to change your environment. It might be as far as you need to move, but you probably need to change a group of connections and associates. You might not have to cut everybody that has been involved in it out, but you probably have to cut a couple of people out. But what's most important is put some new people in that's going to pull you out.
Well said.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm sitting here listening to all of this and taking it in and thinking about some of the feds that are coming up. And you said a lot of interesting things, Miss. You talked about how all of a sudden your addiction created this new normal, and all of a sudden it became this acceptable way of living. And so there's that part of that addiction. And it's like, do I want to stop what I'm doing? This is helping me, or I'm getting this feel good, or I'm, fitting in. All these different things are going on. And there comes a point where that rationalization, when you're not in the middle of it's there, right? Because it's not safe to do any of those things. It gives you a different way of being. That's not safe, not healthy. And so then you the third thing I heard is, okay, you got to change the environment. I agree with that. Any type of addiction, you got to get out of the environment. And so it might mean cutting people, it might mean moving, it might be doing those other things. But I'm sitting here thinking about this. That would be like, in some people's mind, a deterrent for wanting to eliminate the addiction, because all of a sudden you're going to be, maybe lonely and not having any friends. And then you're going to spiral back into going back the other direction. And so a person could go through a very wavy cycle of, trying to cut the addiction, going back to it. And so, I'm thinking, as this is all like going through your guys' minds, I mean, does it ever come up that you feel weak or flawed because you have this addiction that you keep supporting? And part of you is like, am I a weak person to want this because I don't want to be better? Or, is it weak that I have to go ask for support because I can't do this by myself? Or that do I feel less than because I'm lonely now? And like, what kind of thoughts are like going through, I guess,
I would
when you're at that?
say, like for me personally, like the main thought was I'm pathetic. Like that was the main thought that kept on going into my mind. When I was addicted, I will still do like have a bit of fun, do a bit of coke on a night out with a couple of my mates. Like once in a blue moon, I will still do it, but I can easily survive without it. It's the same. I will still smoke a joint here and there, but it's not something that I do every day. I can easily have weed laying in my crib, like let's say like a gram or something. I'm not gonna go out and smoke, like because it's not the time for it. So you can get over it and you can still enjoy it. Like I never said to myself I quit weed. Never in my life I've said I quit it, because I damn well knew if I got on a vacation or something, like my last job required a lot of driving, which is why I started smoking a lot less, because the driving laws in Denmark requiring weed they're quite harsh. If you have, they've gotten a little bit less harsh, not going into any laws, but if you're under the influence of weed, you're gonna lose your license a minimum of 3 years. I've done that once, so if I lose it again, it's 5. And I ain't giving a shit. It's 5, you're done. So that's why I stopped. But I never said I stopped, because I knew damn well if I got on a vacation where I had a week off where I didn't have to drive, I would want to smoke a little bit, because I do enjoy it. It's the substance I enjoy the most, because just makes me relax, happy, not worry about anything. My brain thinks a bunch, so it's one of the ways I can like shut my brain down if I want to get peace. But the main reason why I didn't say I wanted to smoke weed, because it would be a lie. I would have lied to myself. I knew I wasn't gonna stop. I was just gonna turn it down a whole bunch. So it's very important to be honest with yourself. Don't say you're gonna stop unless you are going to stop. Because if I said I was gonna smoke weed and I smoke weed, like so I'm gonna stop smoking weed, I'm gonna smoke weed once, then I'm back. But I didn't say I was gonna stop. I just gonna slow it down. So I was winning, I was succeeding, and I also like was honest with myself. So that's very important. And depending on the person, like getting out of addiction, some people don't need to you don't need to cut it out completely to start off with, because depending on who you are and where you are in life, you might want to scale it down slowly, or you might want to completely stop. I've done both to get out of previous addictions, and both have worked and both have not worked, depending on the scenario.
So I'll jump in here because look, my marijuana addiction, I knew I needed to quit. Like the thought came up lots of times. First of all, am I weak because I need this marijuana? Can I do with it? I can't do without it. I need this to function. But yet I knew I didn't, because I can keep it separate from my job, right? I knew I didn't need this just to function. But I knew that I was thinking about it all day long. You know what I mean? That moment when I get home and I'm just like, oh, okay, now I'm chill. Now I'm relaxed. You know what I mean? Now I'm happy. Yeah. So but I think about that all day long. So, and then before I get into okay, first of all, I look, here's how I know I'm addicted. I'm still addicted now. Okay. Because once or twice I've had it since. And yes, I can have a little bit and then not do it again for days or weeks or months, right? But if I have it around with me, like let's say I get a gram, but I only smoke a joint, a small little bit. That little bit that I have left is calling to me, and I've got to finish it until it's gone, right? So when it's around, same with alcoholism, you know what I mean? Somebody brings a 6-pack of beer, you're not going to have 1 or 2 beers. Mm-hmm. You're going to finish that 6-pack because you're addicted and you need to have it, and it's there. It's available to you. So that's one of the biggest problems, is it's available to you. So like Matt said, you may have to change your environment in order to truly get away from it. Because look, your friends do it, your social life circles around it. So you may need to change environments. Likely as well, telling people, look, I've quit. I don't need this anymore. I can't have it in my life. Well, your friends or your social circle is going to be like, well, why are you doing that? What about us? How are we going to hang out? What's going to happen? And then they'll start to distance themselves from you. So you're losing your social circle.
Yeah.
And then as men, we don't want to go to the doctor. We don't want to ask for help. It's just common ground, right? That's, as a man, I don't need somebody else's help. I can do this all by myself. And there's how the addiction continues on and continues on, because we don't ask for help. We don't say, okay, I have this problem. I need to do something about it. I can't do it on my own. We just don't say that. Most of us don't say that. So there's the biggest problem in giving it up, is that we cannot admit that here's what we're dealing with, and I need somebody's help. Like, trust me, there are people around you who will help you, who will be glad to help you. And like Matt says earlier, you know what? He says, oh, maybe people didn't notice. I'd be willing to bet that people notice, but they just notice that that's you, and they accept that about you. Okay, he's all right. That's him. He goes on about his day. He does his work. So what, right? So I'd be willing to bet that most people do notice. Look, if I'm walking around with red eyes and, slurring my words a little bit, because let's say it, when you're on marijuana, you still don't think as well, right? So your conversations are not the same. So people notice. And whether they say anything or not, they wish you were different. They wish you weren't addicted. They wish you weren't abusing this substance or whatever it is you're taking. And they may be willing to help if only you were, I was going to say man enough, but let's face it, as a man, we don't want to. But unless you were that person who's strong enough to say, I need help and I'd like help with this. And we don't, as men, for the most part.
Quickly, I'm going to jump in here.
Yep.
Because I do agree, like, it limits your performance. But once was funny to me, this was not my round, this was a different drug. And I took a little bit in the morning, and then I went to work. And I was managing at this point. And my section manager, he was there as well. We had a busy day, like really busy. And he told me, I felt it was quite high that day. But I was high at least on a drug. And he told, that's the management that we need. Such a good job. Well, fuck. Then you're really in this shit. Because what you need is the version of you that's high.
Can I ask what drug this was, if you don't mind?
Oxy.
See,
Oxycontin.
there's something that it helps you clear yourself. It helps you perform better, but it takes away some of that illness, some of that, dragging down in order. So yes, it makes you more active, more personified, if I can say so. You know what I mean? So and same with cocaine, and that's why people do it, because it brings you that intense high where you're focused in and you're on your game for the most part. And you think, oh man, I function on this stuff. I need more of this stuff. So I can perform on this stuff. Yeah. Then your nose is constantly in it. You're constantly doing this. And now all of a sudden your eyes are, drooping, and you're thinning out, and you're getting sickly because you think you're performing well. So it changes your entire demeanor. And like I said, people come to accept that about you because that's just how you are. So it's happened. It's happened to me. I was addicted on cocaine for a little bit. Thankfully, it was costing me. You know what I mean? I was about to be kicked out of my house. Well, the place I was in, because I couldn't pay the rent, couldn't pay the bills. So thankfully that woke me up only a couple of months into it. Whereas if I'd have kept going, who knows what it would have cost me in the end, right? So yeah, we got to be able to recognize the damage it's doing to us too.
Yeah, with what you said, RJ, you talked about feeling like you're weak and not willing to ask for help. There's a word that comes to mind, and it's shame. And I think shame is one of the big reasons why people don't try to get any help for whatsoever. Because yes, we do feel weak. We get that shame that comes up. Shame is a really bad emotion, by the way. So it really puts you in a spot where you're actually trying to get rid of the shame, and that you're going to try to solve that with the same addiction again. So it's going to make a snowball effect at least. And like I said, I do think that when you start doing things like that, it's because you're trying to solve something with it. And yeah, it's actually funny, Mads, because when you said that the things that you say, why it was interesting to take, I had the same thing, but with other products. And actually with something really fun, I had the same effect with hypnosis. It was pretty amazing. Someone hypnotized me to actually just be able to clear my head, because my head is really chaotic. And now I seem really calm and everything, but my head, it's just one atomic blast. Let's face it. So at some point, I just wanted to do something about it. I took something that was normally for what's it called again? Narcoleptic people. So it actually keeps you awake easier, and it boosts your way of thinking. It's really interesting because, well, I'm pretty impressed with everything that goes on in the mind, and it actually boosts your mind a lot. So after a while, I could not get it anymore because you need a prescription for it. So I asked someone, okay, how can I get that in another way? I tried hypnosis, which worked exactly the same and maybe even better. And now every single time that I'm working on something really important, I'm just going through a whole self-hypnosis thing, and I'm ready to go, baby. So
That explains why you're up at 3 a.m. for our other event, eh?
for example, yeah, that's exactly it. So yeah, even I'm the kind of person who has difficulties to finding sleep. And I know that a lot of people are taking joint or weed, or well, it's actually the same, okay? And they're trying to get that rest with it. And I do have that same thing. And the only thing that I found to do about that is a really crazy meditation technique. It's actually when if you guys want, I will explain it because it's so funny to do. But it really just it exhausts your mind completely, and you just get to a blank at some point. Would you guys want me to share that quickly?
Now you kind of told us a little bit, so it's kind of rude not to, I think.
All right. All right. Well, I will explain it quickly so you get the sense of how it works. So the first thing that you need to do is try to find a word that has no meaning, that goes in 2 syllables. So for me, for example, the word that I use is bulby. Bulby doesn't have any meaning whatsoever. And then I just go and try to say it as fast as possible. So I go bulby, 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 bulby. It sounds pretty ridiculous when you do that. But at some point, you cannot say it anymore. You're just going to fall over your words. And it's not bulby that's coming out anymore. It's going to be bulpity or bulpaloo or whatever. So then you need to go a little slower. And you're going to have the same problem when you start to get slower. Then you slow down a little bit more, and you're still going to have that same problem at some point. And you just go down the quickness of it every single time. And at some point, your mouth is not going to want to say that fucking word anymore. And if you just go in your head a little bit more about that word, you just go to a blank. And that blank is amazing. It actually feels like you're having a firework in your head.
I'm gonna have to try that because that's one of the things I cannot shut my mind off. Don't get me wrong, at night I sleep, but I'm dreaming. You know what I mean? There's still function going on. So, but for meditation, I cannot shut my mind off. So that's something that might work.
Well, yeah. Well, I have ADHD, so normal meditation techniques don't work on me whatsoever. But this one works wonders. It actually just it almost seems like you do a full reset of your mind. You have a big blank. And what someone told me, when you have that big blank, start asking the questions on what you want solutions. And I did that. And the solutions came like I was just reading a book with the questions and the answers right underneath it. So if you struggle with a problem and you really want an answer on it, but you really need to be honest. If you get the answer, don't go like, no, that's not it. Just listen to that answer that you get. And you actually get really, really good answers from yourself. So really try that out. I'm actually willing to, do a bigger video on that if that seems interesting, and I'll go a little bit deeper on it, how to actually do that.
I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah. I always like to have additional content on our channel, the one-off interviews, the how to do something. So, ways to clear the mind, open up the space, and so you can get clarity on whatever it is. Or maybe you just, in some cases, you just want to come down a notch and be able to like RJ and Mess were saying, to turn off that overactive brain. And what I'm getting out of this whole conversation, and you guys are just elaborating on it, is that anytime that you have an addiction, changing the environment matters. However, there's more to it than that. What it entails is finding a way to get that same high, that same feeling, or maybe it's something that you're getting rid of, like the distractions, and find an alternate way to do it.
No, I'm just gonna cut you off here. It's not getting the same high. It's just finding something to replace it.
Yeah.
My
Maybe.
big addictions like weed, cocaine, all this stuff. The way I actually got rid of most of them was through smoking cigarettes instead. Because it didn't fuck my life up as much, but when I wanted a joint, went out and smoked a cigarette. When I wanted a line, went out and smoked a cigarette. So that kind of moved me out of it, and then we can deal with the cigarette problem a bit later, because at least I can be normal on like nicotine.
Yes,
And
Steve
Linda and
could
Steve-
probably help you with that, by the way.
Well, that's what, yeah, I was just going to say,
Mhm.
and Steve and Linda, I think you're both NLP trained, and
Yes.
that's one of the techniques is that anytime you remove something, you have to replace it with something.
You
Me,
do.
when I quit smoking, what I did for the longest time was I chewed on a pen. I had a pen I was, playing with, and so I had that feeling. I had that, I replaced it with something. I had that, feeling of, it made me think I was smoking. Really, I wasn't. So eventually I got that unhealthy smoking aspect out of my life, right? But yeah, so we have
I'm
to replace it
curious.
with something.
RJ, when you were going through that, because this is something I want to hit upon, is that if you have an addiction, some of them take longer or shorter time periods based on the person and how they go about removing that addiction and replacing it with something else. And, if people think that they can say, I don't want to be addicted to cigarettes and stop the next day, there's going to be those one or two people that can do that. My own father is one of them. He said, my mother, when they were dating, said, I don't want you smoking. And so he said, fine, I won't do it. And that was it. I'm like, wow. Other people, it might take, a good month or two or however long that is, depending on, of course, what it is. And, that's where that getting help can matter, whether you have a professional person in the medical industry, you have assistance from a coach, you have supportive networks of friends and family, because I like what RJ was saying. Yeah, people notice when you have an addiction. They actually point it out and tell you. But whether or not we choose to listen and want to change, that's a whole nother story, because sometimes the addiction is something that you don't want to give up. You're like, no, I don't, I like this feeling, or this is what I'm achieving when I do this. And I don't have any, plans of ditching this. And so that can happen too. And, you have that right to
Not giving up my
decide that.
coffee anytime soon, right?
No, I'm not either. I've got mine here too.
But it's an addiction we all face with, right? So, but here's the thing. Look, we're all capable of that instant kick it. You know what I mean? We're all capable of it. Look at the
Yeah.
person who has a heart attack from smoking and drinking, right? A lot of them can change their life because the doctor says, look, you do this again, you're going to die. We saved you this time, but do this again and you're going to die. A lot of people can come out of that and go, that's it, I'm done. So I think we're all capable of that. I love John Maxwell. That we use this for motivation, but John Maxwell's line of when the why is strong enough, the way gets easier, right? Why are you doing this? Why is it so important to you? Look, my kids, like I said, my kids knew I was addicted, right? They when I would get edgy, when I would get angry at them, which quite often was for no reason, they could see that. They're like, you know what? Go out to your shed, man. Go out to your shed and come back. They knew I needed to go calm down, right? So they were aware of it. And so eventually I knew how it was affecting my family. It was my thing. Like I did it by myself. Wasn't my social circle. It wasn't, so I think we're all capable of doing that. We're all capable of giving it up. And question is, why is it so important? I will say, we talked about having to change our environment. When I quit smoking, like I said, I replaced it with a pen. I kept that pen. I kept chewing it, or, almost like I was puffing on it, but I did it at my local pub. You know what I mean? So where back then we were able to smoke inside. So it was full of smoke, full of smokers, but I was chewing on that pen. And so that kept me the reminder that here's why I'm doing it. I need this for my health, and I can still be in this environment and still change my habits or change my ways. So we don't necessarily have to give up our environment. If your social circle is affecting it, yes, I think you do. But here's and I go back to what Matt said earlier, is that give it that one day. Try it that one day, right? If we can do it one day, can we do it 2 days? Can we do it 3 days? And then what do they say? It takes 21 days to perform a habit. If we can get to that 21 days, chances are we've kicked the habit. Now, like I said, with my marijuana, it still calls to me. I still get that siren song, but I know enough of why I've gotten away from it to not let it, look, especially now when you can go to, a store that's every 3 blocks, there's a marijuana store here in Canada anyways.
Yeah.
So I can get it anywhere. And I'll, I keep reminding myself that, look, I don't need to go get this. I don't need to stop on the way home, pick something up. You know what I mean? I've quit it for a reason. And I remind myself of that. So it's a constant focus on it, even though I've quit.
I completely agree with like the day to day. I love what you spoke about, RJ. It's about the why. Like Linda said, something big needs to happen. The consequence of not stopping has to be pretty darn big if you want to quit day to day, which is why I touched upon like turning it down a bit, because if that event hasn't happened, I would recommend personally, from my experience, to phase it out for a bit. And also, what was it? I had something in mind. Completely lost it. Mustn't have been.
So in that
important enough.
situation, Matt, again, why is the desire in you so strong to give it up? Why, why is it so important to you? And maybe put that in your head.
Yeah,
Well, I do have a question for you guys.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, in your opinion, what would actually make someone quit their addiction? There are 2 answers, only 2 answers: pleasure or pain.
Absolutely.
What
And
is-
quite often it's not the pleasure, right? It's not, the pleasure is not going to stop us. That's why we're doing it in the first place. So it is the pain. Why is it so important? Why is that desire in you so strong? Is it because your health is failing? Is it because it's affecting your environment? Is it because it's affecting your employment?
Exactly.
Right. So yeah, absolutely. I always say, look, that's why I started in this business, was because I hit rock bottom. I was about to lose my house, my wife, my job, all at the same time. Okay. That's a strong enough desire to change your ways. And that was from my anger. That wasn't from my addiction, which kept on going for years after that. But I was about to lose it all. And so I was hit rock bottom, right? I want to catch people before they hit rock bottom. I want to help them realize that, look, you can change this. Doesn't matter what you're doing. You can change this. Question is, why is it so important? Because you will be that guy bumming change on the street corner, underneath the blanket, freezing, but trying to get some coffee and food for the day. You know what I mean? So why is it so important?
Yeah,
It's usually the pain.
Yeah, the probability of immense pain will make people run away from it. And if that's your addiction, well, you will run away from it.
Absolutely.
Even if it means that you're gonna get hurt by solving other problems, you will do that because it's a lesser pain.
And quite often people don't realize, they're like, oh, it's not so bad. I can manage. I can do without. You know what I mean? So it keeps going and it keeps going, till you're in that place where either you are about to hit rock bottom and thankfully you can get smacked by the wall and wake up, or you will lose it all. And you'll be stuck in a rehab house or something like that, or on social assistance, because you can't function in normal society anymore, or end up in suicide, which a lot of them, that's exactly what happens, is suicide, because they can't change their ways. They can't kick the addiction. They can't live a normal life. Why am I living? Why am I doing this? Look, I've asked myself that very question once upon a time. I was suicidal. Why am I living? Why am I doing this? Thankfully, I'm strong enough to go, you know what? I can't be doing this. But there are many people out there who are not strong enough and make that decision that I'm not going to do this anymore. And that's the answer.
Totally.
I think, yeah, I've had the same thought. And luckily I have the brain where it's like I always play like consequence action, and I was like, okay, how is my family, my mother and my father going to react? Well, I can't. This is not even an option. The thought still pops into my mind, but I know I'm never going to act on it as long as I have a family around me, because I can't do it towards them. They'll
There's
rather have me being half addicted alive than, or completely addicted alive than dead.
there's
That's
actually
true.
someone who I was talking about who was I was talking to about addiction, and he actually had a couple of questions that really messed my head up at some point, and I think it might be interesting to throw them out. So he actually asked me, okay, first question, do you love yourself? And my first idea was no. So that is already a big no for when you get into an addiction. If you don't love yourself, what are you going to do it for if you don't love yourself? And then he said, do you have friends? I said, yes. Do you have a best friend? Yes. Would you stick that shit into your best friend? No. So why do you do it to yourself then? And that completely messed me up. Just by asking these few questions, this messed me completely up in a good way, because I started wondering, okay, yeah, I do agree. By the way, it was alcohol for me for a while, and I was just normally I would say, well, it's only a drink, but when you get to a point that you actually see it as a poison, and you just go and tell yourself, I'm going to put that in my best friend or in the person I love. Hell no. Okay, but why do you do that to yourself then? Because, well, if you don't love yourself, who's going to do it for you? Every single person in your life is going to disappear at some point. If you don't love yourself, who's going to do it for you? No one. So you need to love yourself. You need to agree that you are the most important person in your life. You're the one who you're stuck with till the end. So you better take care of yourself. And some people might actually see that as egotistical. Hell no. It's just self-preservation, self-wellness, whatever. You need to take care of yourself before other people, not the other way around. You
I
cannot help others without helping yourself first.
I completely agree with you. I'm my first priority, because I can't help others if I don't help myself. The only thing I'm truly in control of is my own life, and then I can influence and affect people that I also care about from myself. And I think I have a very different actually perspective when it comes to my experience with drugs and addiction. I'm actually grateful that it happened. Um,
Me too.
saying that, I remember the version before me, because like I was born into a nice family, middle class. I didn't really have any struggles in life that was just like thrown out to me, besides me being dyslexic, which is a blessing for me because it gives me a bunch of different skills that I wouldn't have if otherwise. But that was really the battle that hardened me to go through the things that I want to do now, to start businesses, to go out and like chat to a girl, like these different kinds of things. It built up that strength. Like that was the battle I had to go through to not become a pathetic person. One of these kids we all speak about nowadays that you can barely say something offensive to them and they're gonna cry, go home and cry to their mum for a week
Yes.
just because I called them asshole. I can't. Sorry, that you can't say that on YouTube.
Yes, you
I
can.
mean it in the Australian way. So it's right. But yeah, like I would have turned into one of those kids if I hadn't gone through that path and gone out to sort of be with some rough people and see some shit. Like really see some people who are like, oh, like wow. I remember like being with a junkies one, like that really puts things into perspective for you. Then you start being grateful for some shit. You actually have a family that cares for you, have a roof over your head, you have friends. Some of it might not be the best, but at least they're not like throwing glass bottles after you because they think you took a bit of crack from them or something like that. Puts into so end of the day, I'm grateful that I went through that battle.
And so great discussion, great prospect there, because not only I'm grateful for the things I've experienced in my life, no doubt, both good and bad, because they've taught me lessons. But look, this may be a way to get over your addiction too, is be grateful for what you have. You know, like you said, you've got that middle class family who loves you, who supports you, who puts a roof over your head, who helps to take care of you. You know what? Be grateful for all of the things that you've experienced in your life who have put you where you are right now. Now, look, you may be down in the dregs, you may be down in the dumps, experiencing hardship, but think about the good things that you do have, right? I love the song. I love The Sound of Music. And one of the songs comes up there is A Spoonful of Sugar, right? Because we need a little happiness. We need a little joy. We need a little bit of sing-song in our life, if the case may be. So look, if you're on drugs or experiencing some other sort of addiction, alcohol or whatever it may be, even cigarettes are a barbiturate, right? It helps to bring you down to a smooth level. So whatever you're addicted to, be grateful for the things that you do have. And you may find yourself loving yourself, as Steve puts it, right? Because quite often we don't love ourselves, and there's why we do this. But it might help us love ourselves and the things we do have and the people around us and the environment we're in, enough to change. And like you said, you know what? Now I love myself. I don't want to do this to myself anymore. So it may be a way to get over it. Just a little bit of gratitude for what we have.
Yeah, gratitude and loving yourself. I think if you don't have those two things, quitting an addiction is going to be, I would say, impossible. So be reflective and start thinking about some things being grateful of. And one of my favorite examples when it just comes to gratitude, I want to quickly just share it here, is I'm grateful I was not born in North Korea. Like, that's one of the things I say to myself, and I'm just grateful for life. Like, that's two of the most basic ones I use a lot, because I generally am. I could have been born in North Korea, and I could have been dead.
I'm very often using another one, and that is, well, not a lot of people think about that, but I'm fucking grateful for the air I'm breathing.
Yep.
Or the sun that comes on my skin. Because there are people who cannot breathe on their own. So
Yes.
Yeah, and you could be locked away. You could be locked away and be able to, somebody controls your daylight time too. So
yeah,
and you know what? This is what I tell people all the time. You know what? You're still here.
Yeah, exactly.
No matter what you've been through, whatever you're experiencing, you're still here. If you can be thankful for nothing else, be thankful you're still here.
Yeah, another perspective is you already got here. You are 100% winner in your life until right now. So what comes next is up to you. So change it or stay the same. It's your decision.
And there's some expressions, again, some quotes or expressions that will help you to manage. And the first one is, this too shall pass. You know what I mean? No matter what you're going through, it will change. We can't stay in this same position our entire life. So this too shall pass. And then I've recently been in touch with God, but the scriptures have been in my life all my life. And the one that applies here is, if God brings you to it, God will bring you through it. Right? So no matter what you're experiencing, we can get through it. It's just a matter of perspective. And again, why is it so important to do things different?
Yeah, and my perspective on life is everything is balanced. If something really bad happens to you, you're focused on that, but you're gonna miss all the positive things that are around, but they are still around, and they're equally the same. You just don't focus on it. So if you start focusing more on the positive things, and I really mean like the small things. Like, for example, you don't have anyone around you, but you still have your dog. Jesus, that's a lot of positivity there. That's one creature who loves you more than his own life. So, and that's just one example. You might have your kids, you might have you have a house, you have a home, you have a car, whatever. You still have a lot of positivity in your life, even though there are negative things happening to you. But life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. And I really think that this is a perspective that needs to be viewed by everyone. Life happens for you is more like it makes changes so you become the person that you need to become. And that can go really, really far. And I've been through a lot of shit and a heartbreak. A lot of people actually told me, well, how in hell are you still here? And well, I'm resilient. I don't give a shit. Throw anything at me. I'll throw me to the wolves, and I'll be back leader of the pack. I don't give a shit. And that mentality is going to get you through anything. So might be whatever you want. Throw it at me. Seriously. And if you start changing your perspectives a little bit, like, oh, this is happening to me, you're taking a victim mentality, and that is never going to help you, because if you're a victim, you need help. If you need help, well, you need to ask for it. Now, if you take the statistics on that, there is 90% of people who won't ask for help. So can you even imagine?
So let me jump in, because look, we've been talking about this, telling people, look, you need to ask for help. You need to ask for help. You need to ask for help. How can we convince somebody that it's okay to ask for help?
People need to change their ways of thinking that asking for help is weak. It's not, it's vulnerable, but being vulnerable is a superpower.
It is mine, yep.
To the person that's sitting out there and doesn't want to ask for help, I want to ask them to look inside yourself. Do you like to help other people? I bet the answer is yes, because I truly believe the reason why the human race have gotten as far as they have is because helping other people gets us a sense of gratification. It gives us a good feeling within inside of health. If you help an old lady over the road, you feel good. You don't do it because of the old lady. You do it because it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Bravo. Thank you for that one. Because look, yeah, if we, if doing something for others helps us feel good, would not, when somebody offers you help or even asking for help, would their help not make you feel good or allow them to feel good? You know what I mean? So there's that give and take between humanity. Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and I would just want to throw something out there, because it kind of has something to do with it, and at the same time it's totally something different. But a lot of people don't want to ask help because they think that people are going to laugh about them, well, use them for what reason ever, or just mistreat them. But because they think people are just bad now. We see a lot of shit on social media, on mainstream media, that people are bad people. But can you imagine if you see how much people there is on Earth? If people were really that bad, would we still be here? Because let's face it, all these people have an immense capability of destruction, and we're still here. So I don't really believe people are bad. I just think that they get manipulated. And so, yes, you need to try and find the right person to ask your help to. But then it's just You ask the question, you check that person out. He wants to help you, and you can actually see that he's glowing because you're asking for help. That's the right person. If that
So,
person
okay.
if that person is completely going, yeah, I can help you out if you want to, well, go somewhere else.
Yeah. So, and then if can I add on to that, Steve, or
Yeah.
Steve, is that, look, we are selfish beings. Yes, we are. It's all about what's in it for me, right? But again, if helping somebody is what makes us feel good, why not let this person help us so that they can be selfish and get themselves feeling good, and then help us feel good in the process? What a great give and take system we have right there. And you're right. That's why humanity has gotten so far. So
I remember there was one person who actually told me that there's a way to ask for help. There's a way that you can get help from anyone. And it's actually pretty easy. You start by telling how you feel, saying what causes your feeling, and then tell them what the solution would be. And every single person that you say that to will help you. For example, I would say, I'm feeling pretty depressed because, well, I don't see a lot of people around me anymore, and I would like to get more in touch with a lot of people. Well, that person is actually going to tell you in the second, well, let's do something together then. He's not even going to think about it for a second. Why? Because you throw a problem at someone, you're telling them what's the cause, and you're telling them this is the solution. They will go, okay, let's solve this problem.
absolutely.
They don't even think about it. People are problem solvers. Throw a problem at anyone and they will solve it in a second.
And
I
I think
love
we all
that
need that third
example.
party, right? We all need
Yeah.
that third party. So
Yeah.
All yours, Linda.
Yeah, so I'm just loving the conversation today. There's so many like good like threads that you guys have gone down, like understanding underlying things. How to, once you recognize something that you might proceed. You brought it all the way around full circle when you talked, Steve, about, do you love yourself? Do you have a best friend? Would you treat him that way? Because I'm thinking about a time when I was in a situation and the person just honestly said, well, what would you tell this person if they were in your shoes? Would you be, what would you be doing? And the answer came instantly. And this person said, well, why don't you do that? Listen to what you, and so I think that's most powerful. Even if maybe having a little trouble trying to love yourself, a lot of people have a trouble wrapping their mind around that, but saying, what would you tell somebody else in that situation? Well, then just listen. I think most people can at least get to that second question if the first one's still hard for them. Because I'm going to say there's a lot of people out there that like, well, what does that even mean? How do you do it? How do I even know? I don't want to be egotistical. You can get wrapped around that, but the moment you put it on another person, what would you tell a person? And then just, look in that mirror. That's you. You're that other person. You know what to do here. Because a lot of times we know what needs to happen. But in Mess's case, he was saying we need to be honest with ourselves about what we can and willing to do and what we're willing to accept. And then also, the things we're not willing to do. And RJ reflected on, sometimes for some of us, when we're trying to end or eliminate an addiction, you have to hit that bottom place, or you have to have this thing out there that the reason why not changing is your driver too. Whether you're hitting bottom or you just see this case for change, there's so many things, but at the end of the day, we all have decisions and choices to empower ourselves, to rid ourselves of environments and things that suck us in, to ask for help, whether it's a licensed professional, a coach, friend, family member, we have that too. And so in all reality, addictions, you can eliminate them. I don't know that you can say that you're ever like cured from it. I think you're always going to have, once you have an addiction, you could have that low moment and be pulled back. So being aware of where those triggers are, being aware of what needs to happen to stay away from that, but then having that support system in place. So if you start to go back the other direction, that person just nudges you or pulls you out and says, you know, I need you to listen here. This isn't working for you. What are you going to do to change? And how can I help you? And, you know, if you can take in all of these different perspectives today, if you're struggling with an addiction, you can see right here, there's so many different ways you can look at it. But I will say that there's more hope. There's more hope that you're going to be able to move through it than the other, which is that hopelessness. And so if you've heard anything today about what the men have shared, take it in, choose for you what's helpful. And I will put in our, I guess, our channel, some resources that can be used if you're in an area and you need help. And we also have Steve's offer on the table to put together a video. We're going to be doing things like this in this channel. And so this is where I want to wrap us up today and to share what's going forward. And so I want to thank everyone for tuning in.
Linda,
Yes.
I want to say something before we end. I have
Okay.
something.
Okay, I will.
No.
I'll let you have the floor,
No,
and then I'll do it.
Quickly, and I think we all have touched upon this. I haven't really spoke about, but RJ, Steve, and Linda have. Like, when you have an addiction, it's never cured. I look at it the way it's like opening Pandora's box. You can never close it again. And that's just how it is. And also, when it comes to help, I think I can speak for all of us when I'm saying this. If this is something that you're going through, you have an addiction, and there's one of us you want to chat to really get things out, you're more than welcome to reach out on LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever you feel like it. I don't think anybody is subject to that.
No.
Thank you so much for that addition, because it really leads into what I was just going to share. And so we want to encourage people to join the Men's Room Show and support group on Facebook, which is a place where we can also drop our, and we'll be dropping our resources, our videos, interviews, and of course, the link to our Men's Room Show on YouTube, where we're broadcasting from now. We want you to like, subscribe. We want you to comment. We also want you to tell us if there's a topic that you would love the men on our panel to go down. We would love to know if you are an expert, if you are a person that has a passion around a subject and want to be on one of our shows. We want you to share your idea, and you might just be on one of our panels. And so with that, we typically go live on Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. But like today, we decided we wanted to reach our European audience. And so we went at 9 p.m. CET time. Did I get that right, guys?
Yes.
Yay, I got
Not
it.
CST yet, because it ain't summer.
Yes, I know. I realize that it goes back and forth because of daylight savings. I got educated on that.
Yeah,
So
and it
anyway.
doesn't happen at the same time as the US. I
No,
learned
it
that
does
the hard way. Showing up to a bunch of meetings late for like a whole week. Why are you late? I ain't late.
Yes. So as long as you arrive and you're not late, well, then you don't miss out on anything. So if you don't want to miss out on any of our episodes, do like Facebook, do join us on YouTube. And with that, we're going to call this show an end of today, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Linda,